Sheriff.
Can we get all the same people in this photo, please?
All right. Good morning. I'm Greg Totten, CEO of the California District Attorneys Association, and I'm very pleased to welcome you all to this 100-day update on the efforts of so many to effectively implement Proposition 36, the Homelessness, Drug Addiction, and Theft Reduction Act. This initiative was passed in November by the voters with a nearly 70% margin. That's more than a landslide. That is what we call a whopping victory. Today, we have convened a brief news conference followed by a roundtable that is also open to the media. Our purpose is to share some examples and data about the impact of this important policy change and the impact it is already having. Across California, we're seeing many career criminals with lengthy rap sheets and numerous prior convictions, including violent felonies, that are now finally, thanks to Proposition 36, facing real consequences instead of a mere slap on the wrist. At the same time, under the provisions of this new law, individuals who are suffering mightily with substance abuse issues are now, thankfully, choosing treatment rather than jail. So today we're also here to respectfully urge the California legislature to fund treatment programs that the voters, the very programs that the voters so strongly supported in passing this initiative by such a wide margin. Doing so will honor the voter mandate, but it will also change lives and change communities throughout this state. Finally, today, we are going to push back a bit on some of the efforts to undermine this initiative by the very people and the very organizations who opposed us throughout the campaign. The public needs to know what these folks are doing in courthouses in a number of jurisdictions in California. Before turning to other speakers, I do want to acknowledge, I must acknowledge the extraordinary work of the California Business Properties Association and their leader, Matthew Hargrove. Also, Californians Against Retail Theft and Residential Theft and their leader, John Kapitak. And the Golden State Communities, an organization that stood at the center of the initiative. All of these groups have worked together to make today possible and to continue to work on the successful implementation of Proposition 36. We now have a number of speakers, and once all of them have concluded their remarks, we will open it up for questions. And so now it is my distinct privilege and honor to introduce a great supporter of Proposition 36 and a truly extraordinary legislator, Senator Tom Umberg. Senator.
Well, thank you so much for including. This is like a Hall of Fame of criminal justice advocates here. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Paul, for making Prop 36 happen. A number of lessons learned in the course of Prop 36 being approved by an overwhelming number of California voters. One lesson is that if you don't like things done by initiative, you can do it by legislation. The bills just have to have a hearing. That's lesson number one. Lesson number two is, if you're concerned about a funding mechanism, we'll go back to lesson number one, then you should consider that during the legislative process. But now, here we are with Proposition 36. Proposition 36 is a huge advancement in criminal justice here in California. And what we need to do collectively is make an investment in Prop 36, and in particular, in the drug treatment aspect of Proposition 36. And that's what we're about, that's what I'm about. There are two bills that are currently pending. One bill, SB 28, which sets standards for drug courts, so that we have some standard here in California with respect to the efficacy of drug courts, and so that everyone who is eligible, who qualifies, can avail themselves of treatment. And then secondly, we also have another mechanism to help fund Proposition 36 in the drug courts, and that's SB 38. Along with SB 38, we've collected estimates. Thank you very much, Greg, and many of you up here who have helped us to sort of collect estimates as to what the additional costs, and there is additional costs, and I consider it to be an investment in drug treatment, may be. And so we're championing a budget request for $250 million as an investment, because in terms of long-term public safety, there's probably nothing more important, nothing more effective than drug treatment. And so this is my request of all of you to help us make that happen. Now it's my honor to be able to introduce a colleague and friend here who represents a nearby region. That's Senator Roger Nielo. Senator Nielo is a champion also for criminal justice and a very passionate legislator with incredible integrity. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Senator Nielo. There you are.
Thank you, Tom, for those very kind words. And even some of that, by the way, is true. So it is very true that there has been and continues to be recalcitrant opposition to this proposition. It started with the games that were played by the governor and the legislative leaders back in June of last year. And then they discovered that a lot of their fellow caucus members were in favor of Proposition 36. So we moved on without having a legislative conflict with the proposition. And as we know, and as Tom mentioned, it passed with an overwhelming majority of the voters. But that did not dissuade those people who continue to be opposed, beginning with the governor, who said that he was, in advance of his January proposal, he was prepared upon ask to fund in the budget, propose funding in the budget to reflect the will of the people. There was nothing in that budget to fund Proposition 36 drug treatment. And I support very much the bill that Senator Odenberg has. And I wrote a letter signed by many of my colleagues to include specific funding in the budget itself, which, by the way, by the estimate of the ledge analyst, is a small fraction of 1% of the budget's general fund. But even now, legislative leaders have acknowledged that this needs to be funded. We will see, particularly if this issue is agendized in the budget subcommittees. I'm anxiously waiting and asking for that. But the governor has not indicated that he is in favor of putting that funding in. And in addition to that, something that you will hear more about in the panel discussion is that in Yolo County, they're finding that defense attorneys are actually encouraging their clients arrested for a treatment mandated felony that they stay in jail. I can't imagine any worse tactic for trying to see that this measure fails. It will not fail. We will do everything we can for the funding, and we will do everything we can to fight against those that illogically continue to be opposed to it. And that's why this event is being held, and I congratulate local law enforcement for working on it, and we will all see that again, that this effort succeeds. So now it is my pleasure to introduce my sheriff, the sheriff of my county, Sacramento County, Sheriff Jim Cooper.
Good morning, good to see you all here. First 100 days of Prop 36 here in Sacramento County. The first 100 days, we've had 108 arrests and bookings in the Sacramento County main jail on that issue. Moving forward, we're working with the DAs to track data and filing decisions related to Prop 36, so we can have accurate data. And one thing, think about Prop 47. All the opponents said the arrests aren't there, data's down. No one's being arrested, crime is not a problem. And we knew that was furthest from the truth. It just wasn't being reported. That's the big issue, having data and working together to make sure we have the correct data. For retail theft, the legislature and governor, thank God, funded it for $242 million here in the state of California. I would argue that Prop 36 is just as important. What a lot of folks don't talk about is the drug part, the drug treatment program. Drugs are the hardest thing to get off of. I don't care who you are, where you come from. With our young kids, the desk, the age of fentanyl, it is tough to kick that habit. And we know drug court worked in the past. So that's the important piece of it. You have to have funding. Am I disappointed that no statewide official ever endorsed Prop 36? Yes, because it works. We've got to follow the will of the people. We need the funding because we can make a difference. That's so important right now in this time. Obviously, law enforcement needs help with the prosecution diversion piece. State sheriffs are working with the DAs and legislature to make sure we have the accurate data, because it goes back to data is the key. I'm excited about it. We got off to a good start. Everybody's off and running, and it's not about sending folks to prison. As the opponents will tell you, we're going to fill our prisons up. That's not true. The diversion piece is so important. So I'm excited. Senator Umberg, thank you so much for stepping up and having the courage to do it. It's tough in the legislature, a lot of pressure because a lot of folks just go along to get along. But this will save lives. It will make an impact and have a difference. So we're here. You see the folks behind us. They want to see a change in California. And this is, to me, a momentum change, a game changer on Prop 36. So this really helps some people and save lives. And next up, our next speaker is San Joaquin County District Attorney Ron Freitas. Ron?
Well, thank you very much for having us here. In the first 100 days of Proposition 36, we've brought common sense back to public safety. And we're showing our small businesses that we have their back. How are we doing that in San Joaquin County? So far, we have filed 53 theft charges. We've filed 38 drug offenses. And we're very proud to say that one of the theft offenses was an individual that had 20 priors and was facing a maximum of 6 months. That individual pled on the very first day of Prop 36 and was sentenced to 32 months in state prison. Quite a difference, and making quite a difference for our businesses. Also, we're working very closely with our retailers, touring Rayleigh's, touring Save Mart, touring our Walmart, and seeing what they need. And from these meetings, Save Mart is proud to announce that they've created Operation Appreciation, so that a police officer on his break or her break would be able to come into a Save Mart, get a cup of coffee, have a donut, and be visible in the community and helping out. So we're very excited to say in these 100 days that we've made crime illegal again. We're helping addicts get help and get off the program. Paying is no longer optional, and we all here are open for business. Thank you.
I'd like to now introduce our great district attorney here in Sacramento, Tim Ho.
Every great endeavor requires leaders with the foresight to see a brighter future, with the inspiration to find the right path forward. Behind us right now stands a number of my colleagues from many different counties up and down the state, elected DAs, elected political leaders that have made the true effort to keep our community safe. But I do want to recognize two particular elected DAs. The first is the Yolo County District Attorney, Jeff Reisig, and the second is the El Dorado County District Attorney, Vern Pearson, because these two individuals had the foresight and the inspiration to come up and help draft Proposition 36. And we have other leaders here, whether it's Mayor Bobby Singh Allen or law enforcement such as Sheriff Cooper, to push this across the finish line. And Proposition 36 is about common sense, not nonsense. It's about public safety, not partisanship or politics. It passed by nearly 70% in blue, red, purple, and pink districts up and down the state of California. It has been 100 days since Proposition 36 went into effect. 100 days since the people gave us more tools to combat retail theft. 100 days to help us bring mass treatment instead of mass incarceration to those that are suffering in the throes of addiction. 100 days to bring accountability to the peddlers of poison, the drug dealers that deliver death by pushing fentanyl on our children and our unhoused brothers and sisters. We have been measured and fair in our approach, but also demanding accountability. In the 100 days since Proposition 36 went into effect here in Sacramento County, we have charged nearly 250 theft offenses under Proposition 36. Let me give you two very brief examples. Recently, law enforcement did a blitz operation in a local Safeway where they saw a woman walk in, pick up an item off the shelf, and walk out. When they contacted her next to the rental car, they found that she had over $600 in stolen merchandise from another Safeway. Tide Pods, detergent, diapers, and other materials that she resold on Facebook Marketplace. And she was highly rated as a seller. Not only that, but we have, in terms of Proposition 36, that we're not just focused on Wall Street, but also Main Street, and helping small businesses as well. Just about a month ago, we had an individual commit 3 different theft offenses in downtown Sacramento, breaking into multiple liquor stores, smashing the windows. And he wasn't stealing a cheap bottle of wine or a single bottle of beer. Rather, he was selecting expensive alcohol. We were able to charge that individual under Proposition 36 with multiple felonies and to hold them responsible. But Proposition 36 isn't just about holding people accountable in the courtroom. It has had a deterrence difference, made a deterrence factor. For example, the food outlet, the grocery outlet in Citrus Heights, started putting up these stickers, Prop 36 warning and theft reduced, in their stores. Food for Less started putting these stickers up by the meat aisle where filet mignons and ribeyes were being stolen. Art & Fair Mall, the largest mall in the Sacramento jurisdiction, has seen a reduction in organized retail theft. But Proposition 36 is also, as Sheriff Cooper said, about treatment, because it's about mass treatment, not mass incarceration. Since Proposition 36 went into effect 100 days ago, we have charged nearly 200 drug offenses here in Sacramento. We need treatment. We need treatment beds. We have plenty of treatment beds in terms of an outpatient, but we need treatment beds that are inpatient, in custody. And so the leaders that you have here and the community members that have pushed for Proposition 36 have asked the legislature to give us funding. Funding to help those in the throes of addiction off the streets. And you're here at the round table today, those who have suffered from addiction, and they would demand funding and treatment. And in closing, as an immigrant and a refugee to California, I know what it's like to go from paycheck to paycheck, what it's like to need a helping hand from others, what it's like to dream of a better life. This is the Golden State, a place of dreams. And with the help of Proposition 36, we will make our communities safer. Safe for us where we raise our families, where we go to work, or we simply enjoy life. Thank you so much. And with that, thank you very much. And with that, I'd like to introduce a great partner in public safety, the lead counsel for Walmart, Nathan Smith.
Thank you all so much for allowing me to be here. My name is Nathan Smith. I'm a lead counsel working at Walmart. And we're just honored to be here today and honored to partner with so many great leaders, the California District Attorneys Association, and our law enforcement partners in seeing Proposition 36 succeed. I think it's important that it succeeds, and I'm glad to hear about all the success. Walmart's mission is to help people save money and live better. And to do that, we have to provide them a safe and affordable shopping experience, not only for our customers, but a safe place to work for our associates. And crime directly impacts our ability to do that. So what we've seen before Proposition 36, due to the handcuffs that were placed on the folks here behind me, the DAs, folks would commit crimes in stores and accountability wasn't placed upon them. After Proposition 36, we're seeing that turn around. Walmart's a huge company. Obviously, I could give you a lot of numbers. I want to give you just a couple of examples of how we've seen this impact. One example I want to point out is really just meant to demonstrate the significance of organized retail crime. One of our investigators in Southern California partnered with our law enforcement partners in Southern California, and one day after Proposition 36 was passed on December the 19th of 2024, a defendant named Brent Exley was arrested. Brent Exley had committed crimes in multiple counties in Southern California, primarily by stealing jewelry. Since 2021, we estimate that he was responsible for over $230,000 worth of losses, just with Walmart. This one person is now facing charges in Riverside County, San Diego County, Tulare County, Orange County, and LA County. This is just one example, $230,000. And you can imagine the effect that has on a retailer. I know Walmart's typical profit margin in the store is 3 pennies out of every dollar. So these types of crimes have real-world impacts, not just on corporations, but on the basic rights of California citizens to access goods and services at an affordable price. Right now, we have active investigations all over California, partnering with our DA and law enforcement partners for millions of dollars worth of impacts that we're seeing. Another anecdotal thing that we've seen that I think is very encouraging, and we've seen that as a result of Proposition 36, that in the past, when repeat offenders would commit crimes in Walmart or another retailer, they'd be arrested and typically only a citation would be issued or nothing would happen because there simply weren't the tools. Now what we're seeing is because of Proposition 36, repeat offenders who commit what would otherwise be misdemeanor offenses before Proposition 36 now face real accountability. Because I can promise you, experts on what the felony thresholds are criminals. They know. And so we are happy now to see that these guys are putting communities first, because that's what organized retail crime really needs to be focused on, is how do we put our communities first. California is a very important state to Walmart. Our goal here again is to help people save money and live better, to put our associates and our customers first. We are proud to work with the California District Attorneys Association, with law enforcement, sheriffs, with all of our partners to fulfill that mission. So thank you for letting me be here today. And next, I believe we're going to have Mr. Tom Wolf.
Good morning. My name is Tom Wolf. I'm the Director of West Coast Initiatives at the Foundation for Drug Policy Solutions. However, more importantly, I'm formerly homeless and I'm in recovery from heroin and fentanyl addiction. And I'm a big recovery advocate here in California, based in San Francisco. I supported Prop 36 from the beginning because I found myself in 2018 sitting in jail, and I was faced with a choice. I could either continue to sit in jail or I could go to treatment and try to turn my life around. That choice for a long time was removed for too many people out there on the street. In addition to that, in the city where I reside in San Francisco, there are over 500 organized drug dealers on the street right now selling fentanyl. In fact, last year alone in San Francisco, they actually arrested 900 drug dealers, which means they arrested them more than one time and charged them with felony drug dealing. Yet our courts continued to release them and created this revolving door, which helped contribute to over 600 overdose deaths in San Francisco last year. Now, opponents of Prop 36 will talk about the need to just, these folks that are unhoused on the street just need housing. So, right now in permanent supportive housing for the homeless in San Francisco, approximately 20% of all overdose deaths in the city happen in those buildings. And in fact, over 70% of all overdose deaths in San Francisco happen at a fixed address. So at some point, the behaviors that are exhibited as a result of the drug use must be addressed. And more often than not, that involves a public safety response. It's offering people choices. They say, oh, you're punishing. Actually, it's more cruel to leave someone on the street alone with their fentanyl or meth addiction than to hold them accountable and give them a pathway to turn their lives around. That's why I'm here. That's why I support this movement. That's why all of us are here. It's not just about law enforcement. It's about supporting Senate bills like Senator Umberg was mentioning. It's about supporting things like Assembly Bill 255, which for the first time since 2016 would allow for recovery, drug-free permanent housing to be funded by the state. Right now, it's not allowable by law to do that. When you place someone that's homeless on the street into a supportive housing unit, they are allowed to use drugs. That's the way it is in California, and that helps contribute to the chaos that we see on our streets every day in cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles. So Prop 36 does more than just hold people accountable. It gives people a pathway to recovery. And I want to repeat that. It gives them a pathway to recovery. And I'll tell you right now that accountability is one of the cornerstones of recovery, and we've taken that away from too many people on the street. There was an article today in the New York Times where they interviewed someone that was homeless on the street in San Francisco, and they said it was too easy. It was too comfortable for them. There was no one there to say, hey, how about a different option? Let's talk about treatment. Let's talk about getting you off the street. Instead, they're just left there to use, and with fentanyl, it has changed the game. And overdose deaths will continue, and the chaos will continue until we start to actually enforce Prop 36, until we actually fund treatment. So I urge the State Assembly and the State Senate to not be silent on this, to move forward, to fund drug treatment in California. That is really the key to getting us out of this. It's not just the housing part, it's treatment and getting people clean and sober and giving them a chance to get their lives back. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to introduce Rosario Rodriguez, a small business owner from the Sacramento County Supervisor.
Good morning, everyone. I am here as a local restaurant business owner. I'm a member of the Board of Supervisors, Sacramento County District 4, a former council member and mayor for the city of Folsom, and a member of the Californians Against Retail and Residential Theft, otherwise known as CARRT. Prop 36 added a layer of accountability in the fight against retail theft by focusing on repeat offenders. As you know, Prop 36 had an almost overwhelming support of almost 70% from California voters. Do you know why? Because we were tired of seeing crimes against our businesses that had become a norm. Prior to Prop 36, theft was on the rise. In the city of Folsom, in 2023, we experienced a 400% increase in crime. Now there are consequences for those committing crimes and a pathway to rehabilitation. For those who choose to address addiction, treatment-mandated felonies will only help people. The change from Prop 36 are positive for Sacramento County, who was one of the hardest hit counties in the state of California. While it is only 100 days since Prop 36 was implemented, we are seeing results. The city of Folsom is down 10% in retail theft. If you're a drug dealer in the city of Folsom, you will get caught and do the time. Now the public is returning to neighborhoods, storefronts, and restaurants as a sense of normalcy back to the communities is being brought. Thank you very much.
I'd like to now call to the podium the mayor of Elko, Bobby Singh Allen, who's also involved in the Petroleum Association.
Good morning, everyone. Bobby Singh Allen, the mayor of the city of Elk Grove, the president for the American Petroleum and Convenience Store Association. I am here this morning representing over 2,000 members who are all small business owners, and almost all of them are immigrants to this great country. They came here to enjoy the American dream. What they have seen in the last decade are nightmares with retail theft and crime. Since the passage of Proposition 36, we were on the front lines with our DAs and others throughout the state to ensure that not only did the ballot measure qualify, but that it passed, and it passed overwhelmingly. What we're seeing in the last 100 days is that police are responding to those calls. Our public safety groups feel supported because an overwhelming mandate, a message was sent that public safety was one of the most important priorities for communities across California. But what we are not seeing, and it is entirely unacceptable, is funding for a voter mandate. Where are the funds that are needed for mental health services, drug treatment? The voters made it very clear that they want accountability. So for the governor and legislative leaders that are listening and watching, California demands accountability, and it starts with you. You were elected to do your job. Voters spoke loud and clear. You know, I've been hearing things about toxicity within the Democratic Party from our governor. As a proud Democrat who led on this effort statewide with other great Democrats, not only did this receive bipartisan support, again, we were on the front lines for this very important issue. My message to the governor is the only toxicity that I see right now in the state of California is the failure of the legislature to implement, fully realize Proposition 36. We demand that you fund the components of Proposition 36. We demand accountability, and that is up to the legislature to ensure that we receive the necessary funding. So please, this is the time to act, not any more political bantering. We need action, and it starts with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Before we go to questions, I do want to note that all of our speakers, I want to thank all of our speakers this morning. They stand ready and available to be interviewed by you one-on-one. Additionally, we're fortunate to have a number of other elected officials with us this morning who are going to participate in the roundtable that immediately follows this news conference. I want to name them for your benefit in case you want to interview them. We're very fortunate to have Napa District Attorney and the current president of the California District Attorneys Association, Allison Haley. We also, as mentioned earlier, have Yolo District Attorney Jeff Reisig, one of the principal architects of Proposition 36. We have El Dorado District Attorney Vern Pearson, also another architect of Prop 36. Monterey District Attorney Janine Paccioni. Placer DA Morgan Geyer. We have Amador DA Todd Reeby and Santa Barbara DA John Savernog. We also have Nina Salerno, who is probably our furthest north district attorney. She comes from the county of Modoc. She is also a legendary figure along with her mother, Harriet Salerno, in the crime victims movement and the organization known as Crime Victims United. So all of these individuals are available to speak with you. I believe we also have El Dorado Sheriff Jim Lykoff as well. So thank you. And now, do you have any questions? Yes.
Hi, I'm Kate Wolf from Sacramento Bee. I'm wondering, to you, Mr. Totten, how many people have been treated or have even agreed to treatment in the first 100 days?
We don't have that number today, but I know from on an anecdotal basis, there are a number of jurisdictions, Orange County, who I think we'll be talking later, has been very successful in securing treatment, and a number of jurisdictions that are moving on. But we're getting pushback from some defense counsel in some areas, but we don't have that figure today.
Hi, I'm John Lloyd with the AP. Considering how the infrastructure for treatment, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Considering how the infrastructure for treatment is woefully inadequate across the state, and there's a number of counties that don't even have a bed for treatment, what kind of investment, is there a specific number beside the proposal from Senator Umbert that would help, I guess, materialize the vision that voters have put forward?
Well, it varies markedly from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. We have a history throughout the state in kind of regional treatment. When a small jurisdiction doesn't have bed space, they may send an individual to another jurisdiction to receive treatment. But there's also a large misconception about treatment that everybody has to get a residential bed. I can tell you from, as the DA and former DA in Ventura County, we helped a lot of people through outpatient treatment. So we're trying to develop that infrastructure. We need funding for behavioral health. We need funding for probation to provide both the supervision and the quality treatment that these individuals need, and that's why we're going to the legislature now. We need to build an infrastructure, as Senator Umberg said, to the extent that you spend dollars on treatment, you save resources in the criminal justice system. President Obama's administration did a study on drug courts and their value and found that for every dollar you spend on drug court, you save $2 in government costs and taxpayer expenses. So we know treatment works. We just have to have the resources, and we just have to make the investment in treatment to ensure that the promise of Prop 36 is realized.
Would the $250 million be adequate for, I don't know, the foreseeable future for Prop 36?
Well, I think I've heard some people describe what is needed as budget dust in modern terms. These are really not huge dollars. $250 million in a, what's our state budget now, Senator?
It's over 300.
Yeah. So that amount of money is not a significant sum in the grand scheme of things, but it'll help those people mentioned by Tom Wolf and other addicts that we've dealt with that need help. Yes.
Hi, for Senator Umberg, have you engaged in conversations with the governor's office? Have they indicated one way or another whether they'll support your bills?
So I have engaged with all the policymakers in each of the branches of government, judiciary, administration, as well as legislators. I think there's certainly consensus that drug treatment is important and that there's right now additional resources that are necessary, and that we are still collecting data. Even though there were a significant number of policymakers who were opposed to Prop 36, even those who were opposed believe that drug treatment is a critical feature of criminal justice. So to answer your question, I believe that there is going to be in addition to the budget for the drug treatment aspect of Proposition 36. Let me basically build upon something that Mr. Totten said. It also is a misconception that every county need build a residential drug treatment facility or build a drug court. They don't need to do that. What the promise of Prop 36 is, and mandate of Prop 36, is that everyone who's eligible basically be afforded that treatment or that opportunity. So if you're in Sierra County, it doesn't mean that Sierra County needs to build a drug treatment facility or even a drug court. They just need to make sure that both treatment and drug court is available.
And just a quick follow-up, would the $250 million be a one-time investment or an ongoing one?
Well, as you know, the budget process, we just go year by year. And so I'm championing a $250 million investment in this budget year for next year's budget, basically. And then it will be up to other legislators. I'm termed out in 2 years, other legislators to continue that mission. But I think that as was indicated and evidenced by what we're already seeing is that the success of Prop 36 and the success of drug courts, I think, will be obvious in years to come. And so I'm very optimistic that funding will continue.
Another question.
Let me just add one thing. The item that the probation chiefs are sponsoring in terms of a budget item contemplates that initially we need to develop data, but it will be ongoing funding, but we need to develop data that supports the amount of need. And so there's a history of doing this in the state of California. You start out with a finite amount of resources, and then after that first year, you evaluate what resources do you need going forward. And that's certainly what we contemplate with the treatment part of Proposition 36.
Senator Umberg, what would the 250 go to?
Right now, as Mr. Todd indicated, we're collecting data. So the 250 will go to treatment, primarily to treatment, and how we basically affect that is still a work in progress. Each branch of government has a responsibility here. Administration has a responsibility, and certainly the courts have a huge responsibility. And one of the things that I think is critically important in terms of drug treatment, I mentioned earlier, is making sure that our drug courts basically have a baseline for how they how they handle drug courts, number one, using best practices. And number two is that there's someone who's accountable. And when you have a bench officer who holds both people and the institutions accountable, you get much better results. So that's my vision.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much. We're going to briefly break so we can do some logistical changes in the room. But again, the media, should they desire to do so, is welcome to stay for the roundtable. I think we're going to begin with lunch outside and then all reconvene in this room. Thank you very much.